If you do not wish to be recorded, please let us know at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. I'll call the meeting to order tonight at 6 p.m. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. The first item on our agenda tonight is board recognition. We would like to begin by not getting emotional. Sorry. At the beginning. Man. We'd like to recognize Michaela Jeffries for serving as a student board representative for both the 2022-2023 school year, as well as this year, 2023-2024. This is her last meeting. And we have some gifts for you. But Michaela's been a phenomenal board representative for us and offered insightful questions, forced us to think differently, challenged us individually as board members, challenged staff with really good questions. And one of the things that I've admired about her is her focus on students and her peers and bringing that perspective to the table. So, before we honor her with her gifts, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would just echo exactly what Carrie said. I think there's so many times I've just sat here and I go, I love her. You know, because of those insights that you bring in and those questions that can be challenging and tough, that it's exactly what we want here. And you will be very missed. We know you're going to go on and do great things. We will think about you all.
Yep.
We will miss you, and I will miss you sitting next to me, but I won't need to lend you my coat anymore.
That is a perk.
Awesome. Which I didn't bring tonight.
Some things.
You're welcome.
So we have the official Ording School District mug, and I'd like you to keep that in case you want to come back with your chair. Right, just remember where you came from and where you can always come forward to. Your official tag, and a card from us, and then a plaque honoring your service. And then
And the flowers are for you.
thank you.
Want me to set those there? Yeah, you're getting loaded down here. You got a lot. Put them right front and center.
Oh, now she's hit.
No, she's not. Actually, no.
Depends on where the camera's at.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and once a board representative, always a board representative. So your comments will always be welcome here.
Thank you.
Michaela, I was just telling your mom and dad that I don't even realize that you're just in high school sometimes when you talk, because it's like, you say the most amazing things, and I'm thinking, what the heck? And your mom took all the credit and said it came from her.
Yeah, and just, everyone's saying, yeah, it's been amazing to serve with you these couple years. So it's just amazing to watch, and I can see, what's going to change in the world when you get there, for sure. You're going to bring changes. Yeah.
Hours. Count down the hours.
As we said last night, Michaela's off to Grand Canyon University to study molecular biology. And I told the crowd last night, and I'm serious about this, if she ever decided to go into public education, there's no doubt one day she'd be sitting in the chair that I sit in. She's just an incredible leader, great voice, and I'm really excited about the legacy of how you've helped us to elevate voice and the structure we're putting in place next year, how that will continue. So if you're in the neighborhood, look us up, because I can't wait to share how that thinking that you've helped to bring is really going to work to our favor over the next many years to come.
I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Well,
There's always vacations. I'll be back.
And then we have the rest of the meeting for you to enjoy. Also tonight, we'd like to invite Bradley Silverson to the podium. Bradley, on behalf of the Board of Directors, we are recognizing you for attending almost every concert and performance for at least the last few years, volunteering your time, sound mixing, and engineering. You've gone out of your way to help your fellow students shine at concerts, plays, and other performances. So we believe in honoring service, and so we appreciate your work doing so this year. We've got a gift for you. And Joanne,
Do you remember me?
so I'm gonna let Joanne do the honors.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you do.
Bradley, what are your hopes and dreams? Do you have a summit plan or a goal? What are you working towards?
Currently, the skills program, Skills Inc. that I'm doing before school, they said I should put in an application so I can become a CNC machinist there. So I'm going to do that, and then tomorrow during field day is my graduation with them. So we'll drive down to the Emerald Downs and talk with the managers, and we're gonna figure it out so I can get a job there.
Congratulations. Congratulations, that's exciting.
And this also, like this experience with the sound engineering will also be like a skill I will hopefully be able to make a greater use of in the future.
Absolutely, I hope you keep doing
Yeah,
it. It
thank
sounds
you.
like it's something you love.
And I really like having the opportunity to be able to not just help the school, but the school has helped me in this way of getting experience, actual hands-on experience. So it's a great opportunity.
That's fantastic. Please do come back, let us know, you're always welcome. Please do come back, let us know what you end up doing, and good luck. Hopefully you'll get a job offer, that's exciting.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, as fun as the meetings are, we give our guests an option to bail. Super exciting. Yes,
Maybe see if we can get a picture.
Do you mind joining us for a photo, sir, before we continue?
yeah, sorry, we're doing photo first.
Front and center.
This is our wall of fame, Bradley.
Flowers?
Well, no, we're taking separately.
Oh, we'll do separate.
You all in? Okay.
Flowers like that. Okay, ready? All right.
Thank you very much.
Flowers?
More pictures?
It's just from the skills program.
It's important, it's important, that's great. All right.
Yeah.
For real.
There.
Let's go just a little bit.
Well done, sir.
Oh my God, that's our little one. Right there. Joanne.
Gotta come closer.
Okay, ready? All right.
now we can do some business. Yeah, pretty exciting.
Oh, I'm sitting right here. Your last night,
I was gonna let you get comfortable, and I was gonna say, hey, Joanne.
I was saying, go sit in that.
All right, so we have even more to celebrate, so I'll turn it over to the board.
Well, I have to say that I love that picture of the little kindergartners sitting there, acting like signing up for kindergarten. That was such a cute idea, and it was so cute. All they're, getting ready to sign in for kindergarten. And I thought that was a great idea for OES to do that. So.
I want to say shout out to the middle school choir. I went to the Mariner game, so with them and got to be up there in the stands and watch, and they were phenomenal. They did a great job. They represented Orion very well and did a great job. So
I would like to call out 3 of our Lady Cardinals for their recognition for their accomplishments in CTE, math and science specifically. Kylie Acosta Swindell, Michaela Pride, and Addison Lambert from the high school were recognized at the AAUW, the American Association of University Women, at their high school scholar reception on Tuesday, May 14th. The AAUW and local school districts work to identify outstanding young women and to provide them with public recognition for their achievements. Kylie, Michaela, and Addison were recognized for these accomplishments in CTE, math, and science. Congratulations to them. It's a very high honor. It's very exciting to see that post. I would also, we'll take a couple minutes and just acknowledge senior awards night last night. I've been fortunate enough that even though I don't have children graduating, I think Carrie has said it before, these all feel like our children. So it's always nice to be able to go to those events and watch not only the students get their accolades, well-deserved, but to watch their parents and the pride in the faces. And so that was last night. Many GPA, cords, all kinds of medals going on, and so many scholarships. It was a wonderful night. I was really happy I was able to be there.
Boy, did Renee do a wonderful job. Mrs. Pollard did a wonderful job. She and
Samantha
Strasburg
Strasburg.
did a wonderful job.
I had the privilege of seeing the art show yesterday. Miss Marini puts on quite a show, and once again this year I left the show wishing that I could have purchased some of the students' art because it would look fantastic in the house. But yeah, the fall show was wonderful. The spring show didn't disappoint. I loved seeing that it was different art. There were some of the same themes, but different projects, and you could really see the students' own creativity, own passion in the art, and I loved that. So shout out to all of our artists in Orion, pretty amazing. I had one more. I went to another high school's graduation, and it was nowhere near as fun as ours. And their band and their choir left me wanting more. So ours has always impressed me, and for being a small town, I love how we do it, and I can't wait for next week. So.
and a little shout out. We had a choir concert. We had a band concert. They did an awesome job. To watch what we're putting out in that is amazing. We have great directors in our district, and students are excelling and moving on to even do it in college. So yeah, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, very cool. Anything else? All right. Thank you, board. There's a lot to celebrate, even as the year winds down. It's great. So at this point in our meeting, we open it up for community and staff comments. If anyone signed in, nope. All right. Very good. Then I will turn it over to Superintendent Hatzenbeaver.
Perfect. Well, Jill's bringing it up. We'll share just a little bit about some information related to the first slide. Michaela and I started to have a conversation maybe back in April. And I was really noticing that sometimes she or Jaden or even the board and myself share similar information. So we started to talk about how do we elevate student voice across the system and how do we make a deeper alignment or connection to our strategic goals. That led to some conversations with Jaden and then our new student board rep, Carly Castro, Michaela, Jaden, myself, Aaron Lee, we all came together a couple weeks ago. We shared some of your, or got some of your input on this as well, and so we have signed up and requested with WASDA, the governing agencies for school boards, to present at the November conference. And the theme of that conference is about perspective, and we wanted to bring the story about how we're working in the Orting School District to elevate student voice. So we've talked with Jaden and Carly, and if we're selected, we'll know about August 1st. They, along with you, would be presenting at the fall conference. So this is the draft of the information we received and we synthesized from working with our student board reps and teasing some of your information back. So we were able to submit that by the May 31st deadline, and we'll know in a little bit over a month if we're going to be selected. If so, all of us and our student board reps will be presenting at the conference. Michaela, in her conversation with other student board reps tied to her Daffodil Princess work, has really come away with positive experience. So she's hearing from her peeps on the street that it's been a value add, and so it would be not only an honor to bring our students, but to be able to be a presenter in that case. So we'll keep you posted if we are selected. That didn't translate very well. So I don't know why that's goofy up there. It wasn't goofy when I submitted it, but I'll be able to synthesize, I think, nonetheless. So tied to state funding, you are well aware that the legislature increased the funding for insurance and utilities by $20 per student. And that was hard fought, I would say. That was not an easy sell, and there was a lot of back and forth in this session. So as we look to see the net impact, I am not very proud to say that that $22 didn't go very far. When we got our insurance bill for 24-25 school year, that bill, just insurance alone, not utilities, insurance alone, increased for us by $136,000. When you leverage that $22 per student, we're only getting $61,600. So immediately with the very first bill, before we even start the school year, we're in a deficit. So I shared with you that I sent a note to all of our elected officials to say, this is the impact. Yes, you fought hard and we appreciate that, but we are well in the hole. And that sparked some conversations across the county, so I thought I would share just regionally what's happening. When Enumclaw looked at their data, their net value add was $77,000, their cost $155,000, so they're $78,000 in the hole. Puyallup, their net gain was $300,000, but their cost is $850,000. They're over $500,000 in the hole. And Clover Park fared pretty poorly too, $260,000 income versus an expense of $600,000, so they're $340,000 in the hole. So across the region now, several of our school districts are reaching out to their elected officials saying, this is what's happening, and this is just one line item within the entirety of the budget. And I can promise you, whether you look at labor, utilities, insurance, our costs are growing much faster than the revenues are from the state, and that's not okay. Not when the paramount duty is to amply fund public education for our students. So we're going to keep that fight going, keep that conversation going, and we hope that turns into some action here in this next legislative session, because it's unfortunate to a large degree, almost criminal, and what will happen, we'll end up cutting staffing positions and support for kids just to keep the heat and the lights on. So we're keeping that fight going and that conversation happening. Last Friday, it was a privilege to give a couple of awards on behalf of WASA Region 111. There is myself with Brian Dickerson, senior at Orting High School. We recognized him for his work around inclusive activities, inclusive sports this year. He's done a wonderful job building and supporting and elevating the voice from our students with disabilities. Lindsay Atchison is president of PTA. Now she will say also, just like he would, it's a team effort. But we have to recognize somebody, and the president of Orting Combined PTA, they have done a tremendous job of building community partnerships, elevating activities, involvement with our students in the community in with our schools, and have raised in a tough economic environment tens of thousands of dollars, well over $30,000 so far this year, to go right back into supporting programs here at the local schoolhouse. So it was a privilege to give them an award last Friday. Bridge for Kids, want to make sure our constituents, and you know about that, that has been in the works for years and years and years. The first phase of the bridge was funded by state, federal sources. Oregon City Council had a vote, it was approved. So on June 24th, coming up here in just a few weeks, construction will start. We've had a request from the builder, the main contractor, to stage certain pieces of equipment on our property, so we're expecting a proposal in that regard. As you know, we purchased that 65 acres right adjacent, and where the future new Oregon Elementary School would be, that's where they're asking to store some equipment in a short term while they work on that project. That's an artist rendering, but give you an idea of what would happen and what it would look like upon final completion. Signing day, wanted to throw some photos. You can see the big giant pencils, smiles. We had parents and kids here. It was adorable, and I thought you would appreciate just seeing some of the pictures and a way to get families and kids excited. PTR recognition continues. They have done just a tremendous amount. Golden Award winners, ice cream parties, Mountaineer tickets, so really trying to elevate that recognition tied to positivity themes when we think about the ideas around dignity and a culture of belonging. They're doing a tremendous job, so I wanted to just share a few of those photos. We did have our middle school students participate very strongly at our OSTOP boarding, standing together on prevention. There was a key leader event last week, and there were a couple of keynote speakers that did subgroups working with our students, thinking about strategies. How do we focus on prevention while the adults had conversations as well, and many of our school and community partners came together. Fun activity, great organization, and we are continuing to benefit from partnerships in providing that support and intervention services to our students. So we want to keep that going. Main event is coming up next Thursday, a week from today, 6 o'clock, Cardinal Stadium. Some slight shifts this year. We are going to open the gates a little bit earlier than in years past, so 5 o'clock. And we always get requests for tickets, and that's always a tough battle. And what we decided, because we gave so many tickets out that weren't utilized last year, we're going to open the gates at 5:45 p.m. for anybody, regardless of whether you have a ticket or not. So we'll do our best to meet the needs of our parents and guardians and people that have a ticket. And then come 5:45, we'll open the gates so anyone can attend. And we should have ample standing room at least, and probably some sitting room as well. So that'll be the main event next week. With a long night for our seniors, with project graduation happening shortly thereafter, which would be pretty cool. Side note, what are the numbers? How many kids do we have going to project grad?
We have 75.
How many?
75.
75. Awesome. We're going to hear a little bit later tonight some information about facilities. This is about how quickly things will happen. I didn't share this publicly yet. So what you have asked is to bring a resolution for your consideration in July. You're going to hear some key information updating tonight about that, and your feedback will drive what goes on that resolution and if you're ready to consider a resolution. If you pass a resolution in July, here's about how quickly things will happen after that. We will need to post a yes-no committee on our website just 4 days later. From there, the resolution that you approve is due by August 6th. For and against statements due to Pierce County by August 8th. Ballots will be mailed approximately on October 18th, with Election Day on November 5th. The certification of that election would be November 26th. So what seems like a long ways out, we will blink and it will be here. So we have 2 representatives tonight ready to share some information about trends in cost and timelines. That feedback that you drive will help us determine what goes on that resolution, and then we'll bring that to you next month. We have been working to elevate voice and agency all throughout. You got to see a sneak peek earlier this year in January about the Falcon Fellas. Brittany worked with that school to produce a video, and we want to share that with you tonight. Lots of likes, lots of shares, lots of positive comments, both on Instagram as well as Facebook. We have a page dedicated on our social media here on our website, so I want to play that video for you tonight so you can hear an update about what's been happening in the world of the Falcon Fellas.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your...
I was hearing from teachers early in the year that there was a energetic group of 7th grade males in particular that seemed like they should be performing better, but for whatever reason it wasn't going well. So I thought, how can we turn that energy into something positive and make a group that took on some leadership initiatives around school?
So our first activity, we tried to host a tournament, play a video game, and it didn't work out so well, and then we learned from that. And now we've been doing like hiding days around school, hiding shamrocks and hiding stuff for different holidays. We came up with a positive message board that's out there, and that's made a big impact on our school by just having positive quotes up there, and it's just been a good vibe ever since we put that out there.
It feels good and like making kids happy and stuff.
I think these kids, this particular cohort, I don't know why they wouldn't all be in ASB or the leadership class next year. And I think in high school they're exposed to with a little more maturity and their charisma, their outgoingness. I can see them in all kinds of positive outlets and positions of student leadership in high school, for example.
In the future, I hope that we can add more people in and we can do like bigger things than just our school, and maybe go down to like the elementary school and have like talks with them and like help them be positive and stuff like that.
I see not just in this school, in other schools, and having leader programs kind of like ours and outside the community, and kind of spreading the impact of anybody can be a leader.
So if that doesn't make you feel good, you don't have a heart, I don't care what you say. Really cool work. They're in an active process of recruiting right now, so who the new fellows are, I don't know yet, but I know they're going to continue that work that they started this year, and they're on a really fun journey. It's been a pleasure to watch. Is there a doctor in the house? There are actually 2 doctors in the house, and the newest member of the doctor family in the Orting School District is Dr. Aaron Lee. He was hooded this Tuesday night. I have a picture. If you can just hit fast forward, Jill, my clicker is there. Oh, double click. There he is with his wonderful family, receiving all the accolades and support, hood in tow. So congratulations, Doctor. And that concludes my report.
Okay, congratulations, Aaron.
Yes.
I have to embarrass you with the clothes.
Dr. Lee. Make me a little bit tasty. Awesome. All right. Now, for the student rep report. Reporting for the last time.
I'm gonna sound like I'm crying. I might be part of it, but mostly it's allergies. I guess I'll just start with, we had signing day a couple days ago. It's a big assembly where I guess all of the younger grades got to see where the summits of all of the seniors are going to, so they call us down by school or wherever our path takes us, and we go stand and sign our posters, and they're actually hung in the wall as you enter the high school right now. We have field day tomorrow. There should be a whole bunch of random activities. We have like blow-up sumo wrestling. I don't know, we got a whole bunch of blow-up toys. So I got to run around school the other day in like a blow-up shark. It was really fun. Then we tried to figure out if we could jump rope with them. And yeah, that was good. But we have obstacle courses, game truck, all the above for everyone to come and enjoy. And then we have our annual award ceremony tomorrow. So it's our moving up ceremony where everyone gets to move around the gym and find their new seats and move on in their path. So that's really exciting. I think it's a different perspective to see as a senior because I've always been the one moving. And so like I got the email, it was like meet the pack before the assembly, and I was like, oh, I don't get to sit in the bleachers this year and stuff. So different, really interesting, but I'm excited to see that. I also think it's really cool that we have 70 13-year seniors this year. So that's a huge portion of our class is all been here since the very beginning. And so they had a probably very rough time trying to figure out who's going to get that award this year. But I think it's really incredible that this group of kids has, followed along with me for the past 13 years, and we all get to go our separate ways. So that's really exciting. And then graduation's on the 13th, and then I'm really excited for that. And then I would love to say that we're going to have an amazing senior prank, but I could be really honestly, I don't know what it is. Stay tuned with that one. It's a surprise to me. But other than that, I think everything is going really well. I know that there's still some projects coming to an end as the year falls short. We have tie-dye, which is a student project. And there's a couple others as the year comes to a close.
Oh, man, it may be better that you don't know whatever the student
Yes.
is.
I told them, I was like, I really don't want to.
And maybe they didn't want to share it with you.
That's a good point. I was like, I don't know anything to do with it. Have fun.
Well, Michaela, thank you. And we can't wait to see you on stage.
Might be all of us ending it. You never know, right?
Yeah, we're gonna rush the stack.
It's not going to freeze up there anymore. It's going to be all.
We'll find a way to get everybody in frame. Brady will be down there. Keeps.
We're going to take like 40 minutes. Just like, come on, guys. Cooperate.
We'll enjoy these last days. Sounds like they're going to be full.
Yes.
All right. Financial report. A few questions, which I appreciate the answer to. Nothing, just an observation that we are over a little bit our expenses for a couple different line items, but under on other lines, so it's just great. And the plan for next year is to keep adjusting and trying to anticipate, which is hard to do when we don't know how many students we're going to get. So I appreciate the watchful eyes and attention on all those numbers, so thank you. And then, next on our, there's no other questions for financial report, looks great. Thank you, Dr. Guerin. The next item on our agenda is the employee engagement survey update presented by Dr. Christensen.
Good evening. So we administer the employee engagement survey here in Orting. We've been doing that for several years now. I believe this is our 7th year. And last year was the first time in which we decided to do the employee engagement survey 2 times in a year. So we do one in the fall and one in the spring, just to kind of see what the trend is looking like. The survey used to be 25 questions, and we've streamlined that to 10 questions at this point. It is an anonymous survey, so we wanted employees to have comfort in being able to answer candidly and provide information to us. The purpose of the survey is to gather information so that we can continue to tweak what we do to make a better environment for employees and to continue to make that workplace experience a really good one. We do focus on our goals, and as we put forth this, we think about that as we develop questions. With regard to the survey itself, it has a 4-point scale. So we ask people if they strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And so as we look at the graphs there, you'll see that 1 is strongly disagree, and 4 is really what we're striving for with the strongly agree. We also defined just this last time, this year, I should say, what it means when we say district and what it means when we say supervisor. There was some confusion and we weren't sure we were getting accurate information. So we defined that a supervisor is someone who evaluates you, whereas the district is the district at large. So when we use those terms, employees know on every question that they answer that that definition sits there so they can have that. Wanted to give you a quick look back comparison. Spoiler alert, I can tell you you're going to say, gee, Deb, did you even compare? Because what you see on the left is similar to what you see on the right. So in the fall, we had 195 participants, and just to put it into context, we have well, it's a moving number, but mostly we have 358 or just shy of 360 employees. So we had 195 participate, and in the spring, we had 207.
That's a high percentage of participation.
It's a
for
really
survey.
high participation percentage. When we talked with the original company that we used when we launched the survey, they said if we could get 30 to 40% of our employees to participate, they would consider that average and normal. And we got 207, so.
Sounds great.
We definitely have engagement as far as that goes. What you can see here are the work, I didn't flip my own page, so I had to see where I was. These are the employee work groups. So we have our certificated staff, which would be teachers, counselors, etc. We have, and they're represented in the blue on the screen. I know it's a little bit hard to see from there, and you've got your monitors as well. The red represents PSE, which is our classified unit. The yellow is our non-represented, typically office, central office staff. And then green are our administrators. So you can see here that the majority of the participants were in fact our certificated staff, but we did have a large number of staff who were under our PSE group as well. With regard to the questions that we asked, I'm going to just run through those quickly, knowing that you can stop me at any time if you have questions. But this first one that we had was developing an opportunity for a sense of ownership. And you can see here that when I look at first of all, the graphs are similar, as I mentioned. But also, if you look at spring 2024, knowing that 3s and 4s are agree and strongly agree, we have 179, if you were to add those numbers together, or 86% of our staff that feel like they have an opportunity to develop their own ownership in their job. The next one, I'm going to ask somebody to tell me to get off track here because, boy, my eyes cannot see that far. But the next one is given the resources to do my best job. And on this one, in the spring, knowing that these are similar graphs, 142 or 68.5% said that, yes, I do have enough resources to be able to do my best work here. Being encouraged to come up.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I had a question on that one.
Sure.
When I read it, at first I was thinking like, maybe it's like technology tools to do my job or time. Like, how did you define resources? And does that include classroom space? Because that's something that we know is a challenge here.
Good question. I think we didn't define it further in the survey, so it was each person's internal definition of what that looked like.
Yeah.
I'm making some assumptions about it, but I took it from the perspective of launching that question to me, do you have what you need to do your job?
Okay.
So relatable by the position. If you needed a larger space to be able to meet with kids, if you needed that laptop to do your job, I assumed it was the tools. But
Okay.
it's a good question because unless we define it, that could just be my assumption. Feeling encouraged to come up with new ways of doing things. That's 77%. We're in the 3s and 4s. Coworkers good at resolving conflict. So this is our employees working together to make sure that they're getting along and working through situations, overcoming things at the lowest level. And that's 81% felt good with that. And I I'm speaking to the percentages in the spring, knowing that they're very similar in the fall. Supervisor regularly providing me with constructive feedback. So supervisors talking to the employee, again, this is their evaluator, and giving them feedback to be able to successfully do their job. That was 76%. The next one is supervisor taking time to explain changes to me. So me being part of, employees being part of what's going on, understanding the workings, and that's 73%. My supervisor treating me with respect and supporting collaboration was 84%. And that was just in transparency, that was 91% in the fall. I didn't do the percentage of everyone just for this presentation, but I looked at that one, seeing that there was some differences and brought that up. The next one is where it starts to change. And this is, there's a couple of questions left. This one being there's good communication within the district. Remember, district is a district at large per the definition. And not a surprise, but we're trying to figure out how to get underneath that. What does it mean when we hear about communication? So in this area, it's 55% of our employees felt that we have good communication, which leaves the other 45% saying no. And it's not at 50-50, but it's getting close enough to where we just aren't where we want to be with the police and force. So we have talked internally about launching a one-question survey, so to speak. Maybe not be exactly one, but just something that we can put out to employees to help us get underneath that and figure out when you're talking about communication and some gaps in that, what do you really mean? And to go along with that, given that Human Resources directly supports all of the employees, we did launch a one-question survey from Human Resources specific to the department and how we can better serve employees. We launched that this week in an effort to support the work that we plan to do in the fall, where we're having a monthly, not a newsletter, but an email that's brief, along with some brief videos to build up our webpage to try to help employees gain additional information when it comes to communication.
I think that's one in my prior work, communication always is the thing. And in our kind of unpacking it, there's sometimes this feeling or a belief that there must be more information that I'm not getting, even though they have all, the information's been provided, but there's this assumption that there must be more that I'm not hearing. And so as you start to kind of needle into what additional information people are hoping to have, I'd be interested if you learn some of that.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting to us trying to figure it out as we've gone. I know Ed and the communications team with Brittany, we've tried to put out so much more communication than we ever have in the past. And just trying to figure out still at that employee level what that means. What are they looking for? And quite frankly, on the HR survey is just one example. It's stuff that's so easy to put forward that we just haven't done. So how do I look at my paycheck? How do I tell what my hourly rate is? How do I tell what my hours of vacation are versus the dollar amount that's on my pay stub? So some things that could be very straightforward.
That'd be great. I like the idea of the one question survey.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's fun. I find myself checking it to see, ooh, now we're here. And feeling valued as an employee, we are at 69% on that. And then the last question that we had for this survey was, I feel like I belong here and I would recommend it to others, and we're at 76%. We also asked 3 open-ended questions at the end of the survey. It's probably fun to read the one that I didn't put up here, and I only didn't put it up here because I knew that this was a brief presentation, but I want to assure you, and I certainly can provide information to you, it is the question of why Orting, and it's community, people, teamwork, it's just all of the things that we have heard, and it's over and over and over, and a lot of great comments in that regard. The last two though, what two specific things do you want changed to improve your work experience? And then what's one thing we didn't ask you about? If you look through these two areas that have been kind of captured from the overall comments, you'll find they're very similar. So when people talk about communication, as I already mentioned, and they talk about resources, and one I haven't mentioned yet tonight, but is on here, clear discipline, consistency, and communicated plan around that workload concerns that they have. When you look at the what's one thing you didn't ask me about, some of those themes come through again. So those are really important to our employees and something that we'll continue to take a look at. So that is the report for the employee engagement survey. Oops. I'll let Jill take it from here because I've now clicked right out of it. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but just wanted to let you know that we're continuing to check in with our employees and make changes and updates as we can to meet better meet their needs.
I don't have any questions, I just want to say I appreciate the ongoing effort in this, and that it's something that started a few years ago and have not given up, just looking to continue to improve those relationships.
It's important to us as well, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one more thing, I know on the board perspective, we're all like, more detail.
Yes.
And that's, that's something that we're obviously very interested in and curious about, but we also recognize that that's you and the team and Superintendent Hatzenbuehler and the teams working with staff, working with the buildings, working with leadership, and so while we're all curious and we care so much, it's appropriate for you to work together with everybody to work on it. And I trust that you're working on it. So I think the participation in the survey, that is such a high percentage of people engaging in it, demonstrates that people do believe that it's being looked at and that people care about it and they'll be followed.
I appreciate you saying that, and I should have added, and I sparked my memory. Tomorrow, I'll be sending out this same presentation to all employees because it gives a nice overview, and it's something that they may not go directly to board docs to see this, but they'll get it in their inbox. Cool. So everybody will have this tomorrow, and then next week, the principals are getting their building data specifically so that they can move that forward. And I should say principals and directors. Directors who have enough participation that the sample size is large enough to also to be in place.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So the next item on the agenda is our facilities update, and we have some guests with us here and familiar faces in our audience to help us understand some of this information, and I will defer, I don't know who's up first. So I'm guessing not Liz. I don't see her.
I'll go with Matt Grumbaugh with NAC Architecture, and he'll kind of share with your feedback from previous conversations in May about what the current trends are in construction, what we've seen in price escalation, given the time frame you considered about a November bond. And then Mr. Carlson there will tell you, that's great, here's how much it's going to cost, what's happening. So let's go with the what, and
Shiny
then we'll...
and new.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yes.
You can do the sound effects. I don't know sound effects, but that was great. Good to see you again. So what we've done is just, what we have is a really kind of brief, high-level overview. If you want to dive into some of the specifics of the changes, we can pull up a spreadsheet and dive in, but I'll kind of share with you some of the things that changed. So last February, this is where we were at 117 million. And so what we've done is we have looked at what would this mean for a bond in November if all the projects, the scope of those projects change the same, but we adjust the cost and the timeline for a November bond election. So that's what we've done.
A quick reminder, just from last time, we had looked at a couple versions of renovation and expansion at Orion High School. And so just want to remind you this, what you see up on here, that's the version we said we're going with, and so we've stuck with that same version for this bond. The other thing we did is we went back to OSPI and kind of worked with them to give us an update on the state matching funds. And the good news is those actually went up substantially. So the primary thing that went up is the CCA column there where it says $375 per square foot. That was around $259 before. So for many years now, there's been a lot of lobbying. Actually, OSPI has been, recommending to the legislature to make some big jumps in that cost per square foot because we're all struggling to keep up with the cost of increased construction costs. So that puts us at about 18 million. We were around 13 or so, 12 to 13 before. So that's good news. And if you remember last time, we had not allocated all of that state matching funds towards the total bond amount, and we had reserved some for a contingency. And so what we're proposing tonight, or showing on the screen for you to consider tonight, is doing a similar thing. And so the 60% here is what we'll be showing as a recommended allocation in the bond, which gives you, 7+ million, 7 to 8 million as a reserve. And then here you'll see our updated recommendation for costs for those projects. You can see that with the projects have gone up in cost, and I'll talk through each of those. And then the state match allocation, as we're just saying, has gone up. And so in this scenario, if you say, yeah, this makes sense to us, this would be a $119 million bond. And so I'm sure that'll be a good part of the conversation tonight. So I'll walk through some of what is driving these things. So one is the schedule. So I'll talk about that separately, but each of these, what we do, if you remember, is we look at what does it cost if we started building today, and then we say, well, when are we really going to start building and finish building, and then we make guesstimates on how much inflation is going to affect those construction costs. So what we had done, for example, just looking at when we had estimated for February versus now, the building cost pretty much stayed relatively the same. In many cases, for like the new elementary, for example, and for Orion High School work, stayed pretty much the same. The site work and other parts of the construction costs went up substantially. So the biggest chunk of the increase there is the site work cost and just the increase in time, which adds cost just because you're adding a certain percent every year. So say 4.5% or so a year. And so that's what drove the new elementary costs to change. Orion High School actually very similar, except there it's more about the time than anything else. I don't think we changed a ton of the line items except for just the cost of time. And PTR, similarly, those building costs stayed pretty similar if you were just looking at building them today compared to where we were anticipating it to be today. And as we go through portables, no change there. The biggest change in terms of just the total percentage change between what we had is this last one, which is the safety security items. So part of what is driving that is that what we've been seeing with other districts and just in general right now is for smaller projects, it's actually been a lot harder to get those projects contracted and to get them contracted at what we would have considered a typical price. And the safety, security, health upgrades, those are going to be a series of smaller projects, if you remember, that make up those because we're doing things at many different schools and we're doing improvements for security pieces, we're doing mechanical system upgrades for air conditioning, stuff like that. So That was a big piece of that. And kind of tied in with that was also just as I worked with our cost estimator, he was recommending that we add some additional costs where I was probably a bit too optimistic on some of the costs for the general contractor who would be overseeing that work. So those two things combined was the biggest driver of why that went up. And so with all of those, then that kind of leads us to the 119 million. And again, if you want to dive into those, happy, I've got all the backup, we can pull it up and we can talk through that if you want a little refresher on that. And I can go to I'm going to go to the timeline as well. But I'll pause for a minute first. Maybe. There was kind of a lot, I kind of ran through a lot pretty quickly, so.
I don't necessarily know if I need to see it tonight, but I would like to see the details, especially as it relates to the safety, security, health updates.
Yep.
That big, it's a huge jump.
It is.
And what do you mean exactly when you say the cost for the general contractor to oversee? So are we gonna have a separate general contractor overseeing that part, or is it the same general contractor for the entire project?
Well, so the way, basically what, there's going to be, for example, air conditioning work. So we're going to have to, we will probably have not just a mechanical contractor who's doing the air conditioning upgrades. There's also going to be stuff like, oh, we're going to have to be repairing ceiling tiles and doing other work that's connected. So you'll probably have a general contractor that is then subcontracted for the person who's doing the air conditioning. And so that would be probably a project, my guess. And depends on how much, whether we also then add in the security upgrades, at the same time. Those might be one project, might be two. So but whether it's one or two is not driving the thing. It was just that, to be honest, I had underestimated sort of where the general contractor costs are right now when we looked at it before. And then the second piece is a market-driven piece, which is other school districts are struggling to get their smaller projects to bid at where they were estimating them. And so just to try, because of just the market right now, people are still pretty busy, and there's still a little bit of a struggle since the pandemic on just, getting proper size crews and different things. So it's really a market-driven thing. So those are the two biggest drivers, and then there's the time factor as well, but that's a much smaller driver.
I think one thought that I had first seeing the numbers was I expected the cost to go up more than it did. And so, I said, that's it. And we communicated heavily to the community that if we continue to kick the can down the road, that our costs are going to go up substantially. With this proposal, we got a sizable state match increase, which we're going to need to heavily communicate. Like, why didn't it go up as much as we expected it to go up? And that being said, we're also not that far from February. A November timeframe. It's not like years have passed. It's a shorter window of time. It still hurts my heart that it's going to cost so much. It is going to cost more. I mean, we're talking millions, not hundreds of dollars, and so it hurts my heart that it's going to cost this much. But our students need it, and I think one thing that's been weighing heavily on me is the size of this package. But there's no fluff in this. There wasn't fluff in it before. There's not fluff in it right now, and we have needs throughout our district that haven't been addressed. Failed bond after failed bond after failed bond, we have not addressed it, and so it's time. It's caught up with us. So I just, that wasn't really a question, but more of a commentary on, I thought it was going to be a lot more than that. It's still a lot, but it's what we need for kids. So.
As kind of working through these, I was really looking to say, could I come here tonight and recommend keep it at 117, just keep it the same? Obviously, I did not recommend that. I think there's always this bit of a kind of risk analysis to be thinking about, right? So as part of the 117, we were trying to reserve $7 or $8 million. This plan here at 119 is saying let's reserve 7 or 8 million of the state matching funds. In my mind, that's very similar, and I think that when you think about, within each project there's a contingency, so don't feel like there's none there. There is, right? So we have a bit of contingency within each one because that's what you have to have, and then we have the state match becomes that additional contingency. So, and those things are important because I would like to tell you here that I could predict everything that's going to happen during your construction projects, but I can't. There will be unforeseen things, and so it would be risky to not reserve. So then you could ask me, well, what if we reserve $2 million less? You theoretically could. In my opinion, I feel like this is a good balance of that kind of risk assessment. So,
and I'm kind of thinking the 11.3 state match funds helped keep our costs not going up as far, right?
It hugely did. Yeah. That was a big jump.
That's what saved us.
Funds. Yes. Yep.
Which we're very grateful for.
Yes.
I agree that it was overdue, and it was a good thing that the legislature did, so that was great. Should I move the timeline and we can come back and chat more? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is kind of small on the screen here. We added a couple slides since your package because I realized I had not put these in there initially, so we will, you'll be able to look at this. This is the new elementary, and the most important thing, it's hard to see here, but we're in 2024 on the far left here, right? And just starting in November when the election is, and then going out to September of 2028. If you remember for the elementary school, that's the one that's going to have the most kind of complicated permitting. So a lot of those bars in the middle that are like yellow, that's our various permitting bars, and coordinating with WashDOT and the roundabout, all those different pieces. So, so that puts it, says 2028 is when we're saying the elementary school will be open.
End of 2028.
September 2028 for school year 2028, 2029 school year. High school, a little bit different in terms of the red dot there at the end is January of 2028. So we're saying we think that that can be done a bit earlier, so partway through the 2027, 2028 school year, you can move into those new spaces. And then for PTR is the quickest, which makes sense. It's a pretty discrete and smaller renovation. That gets you in for the school year 2027. And the pink bar is the construction, and you can just see that there's two lines. The first line is like the new construction, and then the line below that are the miscellaneous kind of renovation pieces that we're doing during the summers. So that's part of that, is making sure we have some time during breaks for some of that other construction we're doing at PTR. I did not put a schedule in for like the safety security projects and stuff like that, because those, I think once you start getting going, rocking and rolling, you'll just say, okay, let's do this one now, and that'll sort of just be over that duration. You'll decide what's the proper time.
So here's a quick question. Knowing that we are going to have construction with the kids, let's just think positively and we get a pass on this. Are we going to have any conflicts with that construction work going on and what we want to do in maintaining that schedule?
I don't see it in the schedule.
Okay.
No, they'll build it, and our building will happen.
After their thing?
Probably either after, or if it overlaps, it overlaps. So that's okay. But I don't expect it to overlap. You probably know the schedules.
No, I don't believe there will be an overlap. We're continuing to monitor the groundwater through the ecology lens. So as you recall, Matt and Liz have talked about that previously. We do have wells installed in the new property, so we're analyzing to what degree do we have wetlands. The other piece with the city's work with ecology, some of the new analysis about tire tread and chemicals in tire dust and what that does to critical species, endangered habitat. Some of those critical area reviews will happen as part of that project, and so I actually think that could be helpful in our work because they'll have just gone through that process, it'll have just been studied, it's local within the same jurisdiction, so I think there's probably some value add, but I don't see any conflict on schedule.
So those, any questions or comments about the schedule? It's a little duration similar to what we've been looking at before, it just shifted out. And then a little bit of coordination.
Just added more to it, right? It just pushed out.
It pretty much
from
just
February.
pushed out from before. Yeah, it's like some things, yeah, it's just, there's a certain amount of time, and then you also just want to coordinate these things with the school schedule, right? So there's September, so even if you could finish the new elementary in April, it doesn't really help you, right? So, so September's the date, so that's kind of how that works.
Matt, I've got friends who've been building buildings, and permitting has pushed out projects 6 and 9 months. Is that built into this plan, or are we, is there a special fast lane for school permits?
There's not, it takes a long time, but we do have that built in. I'm comfortable with the duration. So in here we have the yellow line and the brown line are both permitting, and yeah, yellow and brown are our 2 permit lines. For example, for the high school, we have a design review that happens earlier, and then we have a building permit after that. So I'm comfortable we can work with those timelines. Similarly, on the elementary school there, we have multiple different layers of yellow and brown are all different types of permitting timelines. So, and then the upper kind of purple here is coordination with the city and the WashDOT roundabout construction. So I put in a construction and coordination timeline. So I think I feel comfortable with what we're doing, and permitting doesn't get faster.
Maybe by one day.
Yeah. I think that is what I had here for you tonight, so we can go back to anything, or we can pass it to Trevor.
Yeah,
My perspective on the resolution, we need to state the request of the bond amount. We'll work with Trevor for the anticipated cost in the explanatory statement. We'll also need to list state match, so whether you want to run it at 119.2 million or 119 million, we'll need to get that clarity, not by action, but just we can have a conversation or feed your information to President Thibodeau. We don't need that now, I just need it in the next probably week or so. And if you're comfortable with state match, then that's what we'll draft for the resolution for your consideration in July. If that 60% or 11.3 million sounds good. So those are really the 2 things we need from you. The last, I guess, is package. If you're still comfortable with that scope of work, then we'll let that be reflected in the resolution as well. It'll basically look identical to what we put before the voters, other than the price point, as it currently was shared with you.
I've never built a school, but I appreciate having that 60% contingency available. Stuff happens, projects run over, things take time, and so I would rather ask the community to support this and then deliver under budget. So,
And if you don't need it, then you get to have that conversation at that point.
Right.
And say, okay, we have this state match, and let's decide how we're going to use this.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? That would be the goal. We're all going to work hard towards that. We're not going to, that's to be decided later.
Package components, board any? I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about this specific package. So just checking with all of you to make sure we're ready to consider this as our package. And then we can talk, as Ed said, offline about whether it's 19.2 or just 19. I've had some thought, I like specificity and transparency.
Me
So
too.
just me personally, even though .2 will be clunky in the communications, sorry Brittany, That's kind of where I'm leaning. It's gonna cost 19.2, let's just get straight up.
I see nods at 119.2.
We're all in agreement on that, noodle it, and I do appreciate it.
Okay, 119.2, everything else stays as presented. Well, that stays as presented too, but we'll make sure the resolution reflects that. Thank you for your
Thank you, Matt, very much. Thanks for coming back.
How much will it cost?
All right, let's talk about that.
What's going on with taxes and arbitrage, rebates, and fancy things?
Is it okay if I move from the podium and kind of use the screen as thank you? President Thibodeau, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Superintendent Hatz-Buehler, members of the board, my name is Trevor Carlson. I work for Piper Sandler. I've seen you all in the recent past as we've discussed the recent bond elections. Love to give you a quick refresh on where we're at 119.2 million. That number, the 0.2 won't change materially, the tax rates that we discussed. But I guess high level, no real change. Very similar structure, very similar patterns that we've looked at compared to the last couple elections. So kind of the things that we talked about last time are going to be true this time. Thank you, Jill, for getting the presentation put up. As Ed mentioned, August 6th is the big date. So it sounds like you have a plan to work towards that. So that is awesome. And Ed, let me know when you want to talk and we can make sure that the numbers and explanatory statement and everything look good. Just from a kind of putting a foundational conversation together and making sure that we're all on the same page. Tax rate history. So tax rates going back all the way to 2002. We do, since the last time we spoke, we have that final $1.89 in 2024. Comparable tax rates, we looked at tax rates within the county, ranked from highest to lowest in total. I know that you utilized some type of communication like this on your website and kind of the Q&A section. So that information is available to you if you so decide to utilize that in the communication piece. So you are down, this is $1.89, and this is Pierce and King counties. The list is pretty long there. Auburn at $4.71. So I'll let you kind of slice and dice that how you would like to for your communication piece. And remember last time we discussed similar assessed values. So school districts that are kind of in this high $2 to high $3 billion range, you're about almost $3.5 billion for total assessed value, and how you rank with districts across the state. And the composition of, certain districts have larger EP&O levies, capital tech, bonds, and so you can see the composition of where you land in regards to your peers. We've always talked about debt capacity. Just want to make sure that that is crystal clear. You have plenty of capacity. So the total district assessed value at the $3.5 billion round number times 5% is $173 million. Subtract any debt outstanding leaves a total capacity for debt at $167 million. So you're well beneath your statutory limit. That's always our first stopping point when we're starting to do the math. Assessed value, we've talked about the growth, the kind of parabolic pattern of what's happened in many, many communities across the state. Things slowed down a little bit in the final numbers for 2024, so 4.6, kind of mid-20s, 16% back in 21. We've talked a lot with Ed about the developments that are going in your district and how those could impact the assessed value going forward. So we've utilized a 10% year-over-year assessed value growth rate from 25 through calendar 30, and then 3% thereafter. Really trying to capitalize, if you will, on that expansion of the tax base based upon new construction.
right? That's the key. That broadens the pie. You can spread the peanut butter a little thinner across and have that tax burden be a little bit smaller for everyone as the new construction grows. I've got the new construction broken out, the actual dollar amounts by calendar year that were added to the tax rolls. When you're seeing anything north of really 4% in that new construction piece, that's significant. Most school districts, it's a fraction of a percentage point, maybe 1 or 2%. So it's really showing up in the numbers and driving that substantial really diversification of the tax base. Okay, that's the, hopefully you can blow that up on your screen. If you have it in front of you, it's difficult to read. Very similar to the spreadsheets and the patterns and the modeling that we looked at for the previous election. And what I've modeled is 119 million. I will refresh it for 119.2, but it will not materially change tax rates because your assessed value is growing so much and is so large. Broken that into 3 discrete bond sales. And this will be something that is a living, breathing document after the bond election is successful. We will determine, based upon construction folks and the timing of when you actually need the dollars, but you'll probably need them in some sort of fashion, not all up front. You saw the schedule that Matt put together. You'll need some dollars up front to do some site work and some ed specs and architecture stuff. And then you start moving dirt and all the good things that happen and then complete and round out the project. So our best guess is just kind of level load those. When we have a construction cash flows model, we'll kind of update this over time. But right now, we're looking at that $1.89 for the total combined tax rate, $1.98 next year, and we're estimating in total, once the bond issue is approved and is added to the books, the tax rolls in calendar 26 to be $3.29. And so about $1.40 delta in total tax rate from today to 2026. And why 26? I'm guessing with the November election, we'll probably sell some bonds early in calendar 25 to then get on the tax rolls the following year. It's a pretty Herculean lift to do all the paperwork, get ready, market the bonds, close the bonds between Thanksgiving, if you will, in the middle of December, because we need to close before the calendar year. And there's always some potential issues with getting the taxes certified on the tax rolls. So really the county wants a firm number by November 30th, and that's a quick turnaround based on the election date. So probably most likely a calendar 25 first bond sale. Any questions thus far? So very, very similar. Really pattern, potential impact to the taxpayers as what we looked at late last year going into the February election this year. A little bit more one more slide on this before we get into some granularity on potential tax bill implications. So just a graphical representation of what you've experienced in the past. The EP&O levy, we're anticipating it going out into the future at a very similar level. Your bond payments, right? You've been debt-free, mortgage-free here, and then having an escalation and modeling a level tax rate as we go through time. Trying to minimize that next big increase, right? That's our goal. Where you're borrowing money, a significant amount, pay it back with principal and interest, there is a tax burden that's associated with that. So let's talk about that. So on page 10, I took, kind of right in the middle of the page here, I said, what's an average home price within your district? My best guess was $550,000. Moving backwards, I took that house, if it's worth $550,000 today, I backed into the price of that house back in 2014, that would have been a $140,000 house, round number, based upon the assessed value of the district growing at these clips, right? That's the district's assessed value. My house, if I lived here, would grow at a slightly different pace, but on a long-term basis, everything's gonna kind of come together and converge. So that shows the tax rates by the estimation of that home value, the annual property taxes and how those changed over time. Right, think about 2019 McCleary, the bonds being paid off over time, the anticipated increase in calendar 26 when the bonds would hit the tax rolls, and then what that looks like going forward from a potential tax bill, and then the yearly increase associated with that.
Can you maybe explain that 25, 26, 27 years, why the big in 26? Why is,
26 is when the bonds hit the tax rolls.
okay,
So that is the large, let me go back a slide. Oops, too aggressive with the clicker. Right, we're plateauing up to a new level. We're setting a new normal. There's gonna be some opportunity.
and what makes it go down so significantly the following year then?
We're basically leveling off.
Okay,
Yeah, we're trying to maintain, there's gonna be a large reset based upon the significant borrowing, right? You don't have a mortgage now,
right,
you're gonna be borrowing a big mortgage, you have a new big payment to service.
I understand, yes, that is.
And that's what this describes. It's significant.
Okay.
So one other, I'm gonna go back.
But
to
Trevor,
slide.
that's
Yes,
just
sir.
for 1 year
Correct.
on that big hit.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's a year-over-year change.
Right.
Yes, so, sorry, I'm clicking back and forth too much, apologize. This would be the annual property tax bill. So if you lived in this house, today you paid $1,000, it's about the same. It's gonna go up to $2,187 is the best guess in this representative house, in this scenario. So that would be your tax
Basically, you're
bill.
jumping $1,000.
That would be your tax bill, yep, you'd be writing a check for that much in that calendar year.
And this is building in increase in your home price each year too.
Right.
Yes, yes, yep, exactly.
I don't know if people will make that connection. To be honest. I just, this is my nemesis, is understanding this. I would never, ever be able to answer a question to somebody that came up with it. I would have to say, can you please call Trevor Carlson?
And I feel those calls. Ed can feel those calls. Ed has a pretty wicked financial mindset, if you haven't noticed. Lots of experience with school finance. So yeah, happy to help. But I mean, that is part of, I think, the team effort with you all as elected officials, the YES committee. There are going to be strengths and weaknesses in being able to know when those questions arise, who to marshal those towards is going to be really important.
When we get close, pending your approval and decision, what we do is look at the average home value, and in our communication, we'll anticipate what is the yearly or average cost estimated to be at the last time we did that, I think the average house was about $495,000, so we let in with a $500,000 price point, be about $78, $79 a month. And so we'll do the math based on your feedback, we'll look at the timing. Even if we get closer to preliminary assessed valuation, I think we're conservative on our estimate, but we'll look at that and we'll come out with a lean in to whatever we calculate that estimate. What our contractors tell us, and this is why when you look at this math, why Trevor's forecasting 3% in the 2030s, they don't believe that the pathway we've been on of double-digit increases per year is sustainable for the average family to get into a home. If you look at 10, 12 years from now, you look at the average home price of $1 million, they don't see that being sustainable. So we're pricing in the conservatancy of the modeling because it's not likely to stay at the trend it's been on for the last 8 or 10, 12 years. So we'll build that in part of our factoring as well.
I just kind of feel like it's just a big hit from, 25 to 26. And I think
Yes.
that's right. You're just
Yes,
like,
it is.
wait a second, I paid last year's and now this year you're like, whoa, wait a second, now I'm paying a lot more.
Right.
So it's not that $1.89.
Yeah, and I do understand that that's one of the reasons why typically we like to keep that stable rate so that people don't feel that,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, we're free and fair.
Those little steps are okay,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah, it's, we haven't figured out a way to, I guess, kind of tamp down the going from 0 to something is a very large percentage increase.
Yeah.
Right, the mortgage, paid off the mortgage, there's a potential new one, and it is, it's a significant amount of dollars.
Yeah, there's no question, it's a significant amount. I keep asking people about trying to keep it level, and I'm still hearing yes, I'd prefer it level versus our history of, at one point we were at $8 tax rate, and taking our community on that ride in this climate is not something that I'm interested in doing. I want them to have some predictability, and even though none of us want to foot the bill. No, none of us want the extra money, but we're committed to educating our kids and taking care of them, and so if we're gonna bite the bullet and do it, that level tax rate feels like it's the right thing for our community. That big jump will be tough.
Luckily, it's a year.
Yeah, it's a year, yeah.
And I think we can approach it that way. It's like, it is, but it's.
And we're going from, like you said, no mortgage to having one again.
And, I don't want to make us dizzy by flipping back and forth on the slides like I've already been doing, but those comparable tables describes a story. And you can, again, there's no right or wrong answer. I would say maybe the ones at the top they're winning right now, right? They have some funding and they're doing some things. You're at this other level, and I think there's an opportunity to find a new normalcy and allow you to tackle some of these things that you all, as the 5 bosses, think are important, and hearing from the constituents are something that's important to you all in this community, and being able to drive those projects and those outcomes for kids, and having that needs analysis that you have done year after year, right? There's sound judgment behind the scope of work that you all have tentatively winked and agreed to possibly look at a resolution in a couple weeks and consider it.
Yeah, when I go back up to the comparison to the other districts, with similar assessed values, that 329 puts us, Eatonville's at 311, so it puts us slightly above Eatonville, and below Shelton. Like when you start to compare these other districts, we're not out of line. We're not trying to get to Auburn's, $4 and for a district that looks nothing like ours. We're in line with districts that are similarly sized.
I can look at White River right there, right, going across and thinking, and they're at 382, I do believe, 372, something like that. So, yeah.
And when you think about the quality of access to education that those students have that our students do not, that's part of where the moral and ethical imperative come. When you're thinking of Michaela and her classmates and how do we prepare them for 21st century education when we have the same amount of science labs as we did in 1986 when we were a school of 200, it just doesn't compare. And so people will look and say, I can't get the education my student needs here if we don't make that investment. So I do appreciate that comment, and I think there's a moral and ethical imperative embedded in that. What I would tell you over time, I think the growth will pay a predominant role of that tax bill. I don't think the people that are here today are going to foot all of that bill. When you look at 5,500 homes coming in the next decade and $5 billion of assessed valuation, much of that debt will be repaid by people that aren't here today. But you have to be mindful about what you communicate to the voters and taxpayers. You can't make promises that you don't know to be true. But I can tell you from the developers, everyone we've talked to in the last 3 months, those 5,500 homes are on their way. And the children with them. And so I appreciate your investment because we have critical needs today. And as you can see, if you make this investment and the community says yes, it's still years down the road before we're able to open these projects.
More questions for Trevor? Treasurer, I know.
Or Travis. Treasurer sometimes, but I'm gonna treasure that.
You might be a Kevin, but
I
that
know.
was sticking with me.
That's good.
That's funny. Trevor, more questions for Trevor?
I thank you as always for being here, and I always get a little more enlightenment every time.
And happy to have further conversations, right? If we need one-on-ones, two-on-ones, happy to make sure everyone is crystal clear, right? I want you all to be comfortable. You're the tip of the spear.
Yeah. I think the numbers were the most frequent questions we had leading up to the last vote, so it would be helpful. We gotta be able to articulate this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gone around and checked pricing, house pricing, but I do know, I was surprised because I thought that they had dropped, but that's what I kept hearing. And then one of my grandson's friends just sold their house over here in the development, and it's a very basic house. It's for $700,000, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. So I don't know if it's just like there's a shortage of houses, and that's why.
Yes, even with mortgage rates increasing significantly from, pandemic lows, there is a very strong demand for housing. I feel like regionally, nationally, there is a lack of supply.
Yeah.
And people are coming.
Yeah.
Look at the traffic. That's the gauge.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to see you all. Thank you. Anything else for your illustrious guest speakers?
Okay. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. I would just like to comment that we have spent hours, days, weeks, months discussing bond and these projects and the cost of this. I think one thing that feels different this time is the timeline. The timeline from this conversation to resolution, to vote, and to having it certified. It's going to feel very fast, and it'll feel fast for our community leading up to our other bond votes. We've had, months and weeks to talk about it with people and have town halls and pop-up events and all that kind of activity, and we don't have that really in this timeline. So it's not our choice. It is what it is, but that's just an observation. This time around, that'll be different for us, and so we have to prepare. Be prepared to field those questions as well. I don't want people caught off guard. I don't want them to feel like they didn't have access to the information. But at every step of the way, we need to communicate that it's going to be fast. November 5th, it's going to be here before we know it. So
We're going to have to use our opening days, really.
yes.
And have to be very thoughtful about how we use those days so that we can get some information out.
Yeah.
Next month, you'll see our capital facilities plan. Director Bannon will be feverishly working on updating that information once we get our enrollment projections. So next month, we'll be able to, like Director Slagle did a year ago, juxtapose what's enrollment doing, how does that compare to this timeline. So you'll not only see a resolution for your consideration, but you'll see the data. As you recall, our schools, 3 of the 4, are significantly overcrowded by 50 to 87%. And I think you'll be shocked to see what that's going to look like before these projects even open, once we get that information back. So we'll share that with you next month, and then fold in a communication plan based on the action you choose to take.
One of the things I've been noticing is that I've gotten a lot of questions about, parking. I have students parking from my house, which is okay, you know, and whenever people say things, I just keep reminding them, when we are overcrowded in the classroom, we are overcrowded every place. And just keep reminding them, we are overcrowded every place. It's just a reality.
I just feel like the students have really handled that well. I mean, you know, it's been difficult the last, you know, to not, oh, you guys, oh, it's not good. I haven't heard anything bad, okay. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any big, huge things.
I think that we're handling it well. I think the feedback's a little iffy because, you know, no one likes to sit in a line behind
Well,
high
yeah,
school.
of course, yeah. But you're not,
You know,
you're
school
doing
every
okay.
day.
Yeah.
But, I think it's an adjustment. I think it also is really showing people the reality of like what overcrowding looks like. You know, just get to park wherever you please.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, Safeway is not your free zone. You have, that's a, you know, it's a company and it, you know, is private property and you can't just park your cars there every day and assume that's okay. So I think it's really showing people the reality of what it's gonna look like, especially as we grow. Like, there's our parking spots behind the school, you know? Like, what, behind my classroom, there's like a car parked diagonally. I'm like, I don't even, okay. Anyway, park, but go you.
So we had bled over into Texaco.
Yeah.
That was,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We had that announcement over the last week, and they're like, dang it.
yeah.
No text, no parking either.
Maybe if we add a parking garage into the package. Yeah.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Is there anything more to talk about? That feels really good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, policy. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have a number of policies regarding electronic resources, nutrition. This is like the health and wellness day for policy considerations. I do appreciate the conversation around internet safety, and I like the proposed language that was woven into the policy, so hopefully you all had a chance to see that. Was there any additional discussion before we vote to move these forward to second reading?
The only thing that I'm going back and forth about, and is the PE thing, and Debbie did a good job of explaining it, but I'm not sure I like that we had it with as a best practice and subject to available funding, the district will strive to ensure the following and say that our PE, physical education teachers in all schools will be certified, because to me that looks like this is your best practice, but we're not doing it. I don't like it. I don't like that feeling of, if you're gonna say, I'm not that we can't do it, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying maybe we want to reword that a little bit so it, because when I read it, it looks like this is best practice. We should have certified PE teachers in every single building, but we're not doing that, so we're not following best practice. I don't know what you guys think, but that's how I read it kind of, and I don't like to, I mean, I understand totally why you're saying that not to have that. I just think that we might want to word it a little differently so that it doesn't look like that. I don't know. What you guys feel?
Well, we have the option to, this is first read,
Right.
so we have the option to suggest an edit. Do you want to hold that one while we consider language?
If I could just briefly anecdote, there's a difference in policy language and practice between certificated and endorsed. So all of our teachers are certificated that are in that and every other classroom position in elementary. That's not to say they're not endorsed or separate. Many of the endorsements are a 412 endorsement, so you may carry additional endorsements as well. But that's different than being certified by the state of Washington to teach in a classroom, just as a clarification.
Yeah, because that's how we word it. right?
Right, that- which
Yeah,
means
yeah.
all of our teachers, as a best practice, are certificated. Debbie presents to you annually. Anybody that's teaching in an area where they're out of endorsement or not certified, you see that every year for your review and report that publicly.
Yeah.
But our best practice would be to put people in the classroom that are certified
Right.
to do that position. Commonly in the world of elementary, you're K-8, so you can teach science, PE, health, any subject in that area. So our practice would be that teachers are certificated, but that's different than meaning they're carrying also a PE endorsement, just for clarification.
I mean, I just, I like best practice, I just feel like, I don't know.
But I'm saying we are doing this practice.
We're
Our
doing
teachers
this,
are
it's just
certificated.
we're not putting their endorsed area, right? Because we don't have PE certificated teachers they're K-8, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They may not carry an endorsement, a 412 endorsement in PE,
Right.
but they are certified to teach this class.
Right, yes, K-8.
Yes.
And most elementary teachers, when you are certified for that level, you are certified in all areas, because in elementary school, you teach, you're not like just certified that. You teach reading, math, social studies, in some places PE too, So it's looked at as a wider area of endorsement.
So certified to do it, but not endorsement. Is that what
They're
you're
certificated.
saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's
But they
it's
don't-
kind of what I'm picking up.
I mean-
is they're certified to do it, they're just not, they don't have an endorsement.
I mean, we
to do
have
PE.
had endorsed PE teachers for several years. We have had them, yes, but we're not, I talked to Ken at OSPI, I wasn't talking about what we were doing, but he had said that is best practice, that's what they're encouraging schools to do. I mean, I get it though, if you need to change someone around, having a K-8 is a nice thing to have, rather than just 412 PE, so I understand that in elementary. I just,
Yeah. Conversely, take the PE context, I think it's impractical and advisable if you were going to try to put a policy that says every elementary teacher must be endorsed in every subject they teach. I don't know how we
wouldn't.
be able to.
But
do
that's
that.
the K, that's the difference. That's a specialist. It's different than a K-8 teacher. Because he can't, a specialist, right, they can't go and teach. A K-12, 412 endorsed PE could not go and teach elementary.
Depends on when you got your certification, because when I was originally certificated, I was K-12 special ed and regular ed, because I had a special ed major and a regular ed minor. So, it has changed, but the and is it K-8 now, or is it K-4 for classroom teachers? With
K-8.
Not prepared to
Yes.
speak to the exact current levels of
Okay.
certification.
Okay.
However, we're happy
Yeah,
to
we
bring that
said
back to
K-8.
you. I believe it's still K-8.
But I'm
No,
gonna bring
I'm
it
fine.
back, I'm
Okay,
gonna bring it back to, well, it's a vote.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, whatever you guys want to do.
That's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring it back to, is we can vote to move all of the policies as written to second read. That would be our next step on this, even though I don't have an action item down here.
I know, I was looking for it too.
Yeah, so, and you could either choose, we can pull that one out and vote separately for that and move the rest forward if there's no further discussion on those. Or we could pass it through to second read, which still gives us an opportunity for any edits if necessary. But Joanne, I would ask you, if it doesn't say that, then think about what you would like it to say. And then it can be considered
Right.
as a change. Okay? So am I pulling that one out or not?
No. Oh, I don't,
Okay.
we vote, I guess.
So we'll vote on the entirety of them to move them forward to second read. Good on that? Okay, I appreciate the discussion. Thank you. I think I'm supposed to, without Bonnie's language, I'm just winging it. I will entertain a motion to move the first read policy to second read.
I move that we move the policies to the second read.
I move that we. I was like, the move's moved.
Sorry, guys. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Bonnie wouldn't need it. Yes, and for the community, all of our policies that we just talked about are available on Board Docs if you're interested in reading them and seeing them in detail. They'll move forward to a second read, and then if there are any edits, you'll be able to see that as well in Board Docs before they're approved and finalized.
And there are hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Yes, yes. We just did 10 of them here at once. Great. All right. Now, we have our consent agenda, which is simple. We've got, I just want to call out the Eastern Washington University College and the high school memorandum of understanding and the Clover Park Technical College. Last night we got to see a number of students receive their AA degree before actually graduating from high school, and so these partnerships allow for that to happen, so I'm appreciative of them. But at this stage, I will call for a motion on our consent agenda items.
Motion to approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The next item is superintendent's contract for 2024 to 2027. I will entertain a motion for that.
I move to approve the superintendent's contract for the years 2024 to 2027.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Next item for action in our agenda is surplus items. We are surplusing old marching band uniforms.
What's so bummed about that?
This is almost my favorite. The stapler was my first favorite. The marching band uniforms is, I love this. And I'm happy for our music department that hopefully they found some more storage space. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the disposal of surplus items as prepared.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And that takes us to the last item, board comments.
She said enough comments tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. She's not getting out of here.
I actually just really wanted to know if it's After wanting to know that, I think ever since I got it.
No, you said you dance, you don't sing.
Yeah, I don't sing. No, thank you. On a more serious note, I really want to thank all of you guys for this experience. I think that this whole journey has shaped who I am today. I think it has made me a better leader, a better speaker in general. I remember when I came in here for my interview 2 years ago, and I was very scared, and I don't think I am the same person I was 2 years ago, and I think I can thank all of you guys for that. I'm really going to miss this, and I will think about it all the time. So don't worry, I will be back. I'm so excited to see where this school district goes, and if anything that I've said or done has had an impact, I'm really excited to see where that goes.
decided to run for Daffodil Princess. And when I saw you win, and I was sitting next to Ms. Lily Fisher, and she told me you weren't gonna have time for us anymore. That you were gonna be way too busy. I'm like, oh no. That just doesn't work for us. But you managed to take on one more big thing and do it with such finesse and such skill. And I'm so glad that you shared some of that with us. Shoot. I took my 6-year-old granddaughter to the princess tea. And Bailey was so flippin' excited that she got to dance with Princess Michaela. And her favorite part of that whole day was watching you guys perform. She was front and center in her little princess dress. But just thank you so much for not only taking that and doing that for the community around you, but it affected me personally with my granddaughter. Thanks.
That's what I strive to do. But I really do appreciate everything you guys have done for me. And just your encouragement to like let me use my voice for something has really been important to me. I mean, none of you guys have ever like made me feel bad or made me want to back down from anything that I've said. And I think that has been really amazing to be treated as an equal and not, an 18-year-old. It's been really nice, so I do appreciate it.
I think I told you once, your voice is so powerful, and if anybody is ever not listening to you, they don't deserve your presence. And so, as a leader, as a professional woman, in your education, wherever you go, make sure you're surrounded by people who are hearing you.